There is a version of you that has been sitting at the same desk for 2 hours. The task is open. You know what needs to happen. You actually want to do it. It matters to you. And you are completely, absolutely stuck. You are not scrolling instead. You are not distracted. You're just sitting there, staring at it, unable to begin. And somewhere in the background, a voice in your head is saying, "What is wrong with you?" I want to talk to you about that moment because I see it in clinic constantly. Adults who are genuinely motivated, genuinely intelligent, who have tried every productivity system, every planner, every alarm, every promise to themselves, and who still cannot start the thing they actually want to do. And they come in convinced they are lazy. They are not lazy. That is not what's happening. Here is what is actually happening. The brain has a launch system. And for that system to fire, for you to actually initiate a task, it needs a specific neurochemical signal. That signal is dopamine. Not the dopamine spike you get from finishing something, not the reward system at the end, the dopamine signal that says, this is worth engaging with right now. In most people, that signal fires at a low threshold. They decide to do something, they do it. The gap between intention and action is small. In a brain with ADHD, that threshold is higher. The signal doesn't fire on intention alone. It needs something extra. And here is the part nobody explains clearly enough. That something extra is usually one of four things: urgency, novelty, challenge, or interest. If the task is urgent, deadline is in 1 hour, someone is waiting, consequences are real, the brain gets a substitute signal and you can launch. If the task is brand new, first time, fresh problem, no repetition, same thing. If it's genuinely interesting, your brain naturally generates its own dopamine and you go. But if it's a task you care about in theory that isn't urgent yet, that you have done before, that isn't inherently exciting, the launch signal doesn't come, and no amount of caring about the outcome changes that. This is why so many adults with ADHD describe the same pattern. They do their best work at the last possible minute. Not because they work better under pressure in some general sense, but because pressure is one of the few things that reliably creates a neurochemical conditions their brain needs to start. The deadline becomes the dopamine, and the rest of the time, when there is no deadline, when it's just them and the task and all the time in the world, they sit there stuck and they hate themselves for it. What I want you to understand is that this is not a character flaw. It's not about how much you care. Some of the people I see in clinic care deeply about the tasks they cannot start. They care so much that the inability to start has become a source of profound shame. They have been told they are lazy their whole lives. They have internalized it. And the shame itself, the watching yourself fail over and over, creates its own emotional weight that makes starting even harder. Because now you're not just trying to launch a task, you are launching it while managing the fear of confirming again that something is wrong with you. The clinical term for this task initiation difficulty. And it's one of the most common and most debilitating presentations of executive dysfunction I see in adults. It shows up across ADHD presentations, not just the hyperactive type, not just the inattentive type, but across spectrum, across genders, across age groups, including adults who were high-functioning students who masked well, who people would never in a million years suspect have this profile because they are smart. And smart people learn to compensate until they can't anymore. As a nurse practitioner, one of the things I can do that's different from a lot of providers is run a complete differential before landing anywhere. Task initiation difficulty doesn't only come from ADHD. It can look like depression. It can look like anxiety with avoidance patterns. And it can look like a trauma response, a nervous system that learned staying still was safer than moving. It can look like burnout so deep the executive system has just quietly shut down. Part of my job is figuring out what is actually driving what we're seeing, because the path forward looks different depending on the answer. And in some cases it's more than one thing at once. What I want you to take away from this is simple. If you have spent years being unable to start things you want to do, things that matter to you, not just boring tasks you're avoiding, that is information. It's not a verdict on your character. It's data about how your brain is wired. And data has answers. The people I work with who understand this distinction, who stop trying to fix a motivation problem when they actually have a neurological one, they stop fighting themselves. They start working with how their brain actually operates. Some of them get assessed and find out for the first time what they are actually dealing with. Some of them get support. Some of them get medication that finally makes the launch system work the way it was supposed to. Not all of them, but enough that it changes things. If any part of what I described today sounded familiar, if you have spent years stuck at the starting line of your own life, I want you to consider that there might be a real clinical explanation, not an excuse, an explanation. And explanations are where you start building something different. If you are in Ottawa, Toronto, or anywhere in Ontario, you can visit adultadhd.crocuscare.ca to learn about what a proper adult ADHD assessment actually involves and what the process looks like. That's adultadhd.crocuscare.ca. This is educational content, not clinical advice for your specific situation, but if it's resonating, it's worth exploring. I'll see you in the next one.